Hey there, today I'm going to be talking about two of the strongest psychics to grace Marvel's comics and our tabletops. My name is Nate, and welcome to the Gamers Guild. So, as I continue to try and stay up to date with all the Marvel Crisis Protocol reveals and releases, I naturally had to get to these two 5-threat powerhouses sooner than later. But before I talk about them, I want to go ahead and talk about the guild sponsor, Tritex Games. They have some great prices for the MCP products, and their pre-order prices take 20% off of the retail value, and then you can additionally use the code TritexGGCP5 at checkout for an additional 5% off for a grand total of 25, which is awesome, especially with all these new Mystic characters coming out that should be hitting next month. As well, thanks to Tritex, I'm able to do a monthly giveaway. To enter, all you need to do is leave a comment down in the description of the video and be subscribed to the channel. And with that, let's now talk about the Queen of Fainting, Jean Grey. She has the alter ego of Jean Grey. She has 6 stamina, moves medium, is size 2 for 5 threat. Her defenses look a bit like your cell phone coverage bars, with a 3 physical defense, 4 energy defense, and a 5 mystic defense. So a bit weak to physical, but otherwise her higher dice number should help keep her standing upright. Her first attack is Mystic and called Psionic Bolt. Has a range of 4, strength of 5 for 0 power. But she will gain power equal to the damage dealt, plus the attack gains power via sap power on a wild. It allows Jean to take 1 power from her target and give it to herself for each wild in her roll before damage is dealt. So there isn't anything too crazy here, but her next attack has quite a bit more punch behind it. Telekinetic Force is a physical attack with a range of 3, strength of 9 for 6 power. Before damage is dealt, if the target character is size 4 or less, Jean may throw them short. Period. No additional triggers like damage or a certain die face needed for a throw in any direction. However, if you do manage to get a wild, the attack gains explosive. Now this also triggers before damage is dealt, so you can decide to trigger this before or after the throw, depending on how that positioning works out for you, but it will deal 1 damage to each other enemy character within range 2 of the target. So that is all of her attacks, but she has a plethora of superpowers to make up for them. As a matter of fact, the first superpower is kind of an attack. It is called Battlefield Manipulation, and it costs 3. It allows Jean to pick a terrain feature of size 4 or less that is within range 3 to throw it medium. And like most other throws out there, it can only be used once per turn. Her next power is also active and called Matter Transmutation, and it's also pretty expensive at 3 power. But for a lot of power comes a pretty powerful effect. Jean can choose another character with an activation token within range 2 and push it short. A character can only be moved by this superpower once per turn. So right off the bat, there are some downsides to this power compared to something like Enchantress's or MODOK's ability to advance another character. First of all, the cost. Secondly, the restriction on only being able to push characters so that way terrain and other characters can get in the way and stop that push from fully completing. And finally, the restriction of only being able to use this on activated characters. But this power can also be used on your allied characters. And out-of-turn movement for your own characters is a premium in this game, so Jean having a power that can move not only your own but also your opponent's characters is nothing to sniff at. Now, admittedly, it's not Thanos' cosmic portal, but Thanos also usually ends up being a 7-threat model. Her next power is reactive. Shield Mine costs 2 power and can be used when she or an allied character that is within range 4 would be advanced, placed, or pushed by an enemy effect from a superpower or mystic attack. That allied character is then not advanced, pushed, or placed. Then rounding out her suite of powers, she has the innate power of flight and some latent psychic potential that lets her gain 1 additional power during the power phase. And thank goodness that she does, because she needs every bit of power that she can. As well, on her injured side, she gains 1 point of stamina, something else that she will desperately want. So Jean is going to be a really interesting piece to see on the board, and I'm very intrigued to see what she's going to be able to accomplish. Her defensive stats feel very average and tame. Her 5 Mystic defense does stand out, especially with as many characters that only have Mystic attacks that we are beginning to see. But her lack of any other kind of defensive tech is unfortunate. Her builder is pretty average. I personally really wouldn't have minded seeing a 6th strength, if for no other reason than to help her build power because she needs it. Her spender is cool, and if you have the power and you need the attack and have access to it, great, but for 6 power it's quite expensive. That can be denying your opponent movement effects on your team, or raid-ranging models and a big throw. So it's a big attack and good for that very specific situation that calls for desperate measures. But on an average turn, you are probably hoping Jean is in position to get off 2 builders so that she can get as much power as she can for all of her abilities. So to sum it up, she is a weird combination of abilities that can all do great things individually, but none of them really seem to combine into any form of synergy with everything else that she has on her card. So she has a cool toolkit, and at a higher threat game, she can be a great piece to bring in against Black Order to stop Thanos from messing with your own team, or any other characters like Enchantress, but she doesn't seem to have a defined purpose on the table, which hurts her a bit at 5 threat. She isn't a glass cannon, but she isn't really tanky. She is average on the damage dealing front unless she has a ton of power, and she has some cool board positioning tools, but the matter transmutation is pretty expensive for such a limited control, both in its range and its ability. As far as affiliations go, while she has a cute team tactic card with Wolverine and Cyclops, I would sooner rather pop her in A-Force when she can be fed some power and is in affiliation as well. And the ability to help make sure your team needs to be where you want them to is much more relevant with the 2 in affiliation bodyguards. Moving on to Jean's counterpart in this box, we have Cassandra Nova, who has the alter ego of Cassandra Nova Xavier. Yes, that Xavier family. Comics are weird. She has 7 stamina, moves medium, is size 2 for 5 threat. Her defenses are all 1 less than Jean's, so her cell phone coverage just might be a little bit worse, with 2 physical defense, 3 energy, and 4 mystic. Her builder is identical to Jean's in name and everything else, but where things get much more interesting is her second attack. Mind Possession is a range 3 mystic attack that rolls 6 dice for 1 power, and after the attack is resolved, you may advance the target character its speed. No damage required, no symbols, just a forced advance of that speed, which is a really big deal because most characters that have additional movement tricks have limited range. Black Bolt, for example, needs to be within range 3 to use his additional attack that has that place effect. So Cassandra is able to really push any model out of position, and it hurts those long movers as much as anyone else, which most repositioning effects cannot do, so Nova's attack stands apart from many others. Her last attack is a physical one. Flesh Manipulation sounds gross, and has a range of 2, strength of 8 for 4 power. There are no guaranteed effects, but on a wild, the attack gains Explosive Force, which is that after the attack is resolved, all other characters that are within range 2 are pushed away from Nova short, and then each pushed character suffers 1 damage. Seems like a solid spender all in all, but you really hope to probably not use it too much, mostly because enemy characters being within range 2 of Nova isn't what she wants with her 2 physical defense. Thankfully, she has some powers to help with that. First is her lone active power that costs 3. Biokinesis lets Nova choose an enemy character within range 3, and it gains the Root and Slow special conditions. Next up is Psychic Distraction. Cassandra can spend 2 power whenever an enemy character ends a movement within range 4 of her. She can then roll 4 dice, and the enemy character suffers 1 damage for each crit and while rolled. If the superpower deals at least 1 damage, then Nova can advance short, and we'll see why that is nice in just a moment. Her last reactive ability, though, is Telekinetic Deflection. For 2 power, whenever Cassandra Nova would suffer a collision, she may use this superpower. She does not suffer damage from that collision. So she has her own personal brace for impact, which is extremely big, especially for her given that physical defense of 2. Finally, she has Telepathic Cloak. Characters must be within range 3 of this character to target it with attacks, which is why her Psychic Distraction letting her move short can be really clutch. And finally, she has Flight and the Healing Factor 1 keywords. And that healing factor is a much bigger deal than her just getting to heal 1 damage per turn. It's also worth mentioning that she does go down to 6 stamina on her injured side, but that is the only change. Looking at her overall kit, she has several similarities to her box buddy, but a few notable differences as well. Her stamina values are average, but her lower defenses certainly put a target on her for removal. Thankfully, all but one of her superpowers are defensive in some way to help keep her standing. A personal brace for impact, stealth, and the ability to move away if someone does move into her stealth bubble gives her plenty of extra help. And while Healing Factor is great for the healing of 1, it is just as importantly giving Nova access to the exceptional healing tactic card that lets her reduce damage from any one source down to just 1 damage. So for her strengths, I think she isn't so much tanky as she is elusive in how she is able to be a piece that survives longer than you might think. Another thing she really has going for her is positioning. Since Psychic Distraction can trigger off of a place, advance, push, or throw, Nova should have plenty of opportunities to use it, not just to deal a bit of damage or to get into her stealth range, but also to help keep her on a point or relevant to where she wants to be on the board. And of course, probably the best thing on her card is her 1 power spender. A guaranteed advance of a character's speed is so powerful. Sure, characters with a short move don't care as much because it's like any other reposition effect to them. But for any of the medium or long movers, this can be the start to a really bad day for any of them. Whether you send them away basically to stagger them, or if you pull them into your own team for an easier days. Either way, it's quite a powerful effect. So, with those being the good things, let's talk about the bad. Nova really only has 2 issues that can probably really be simplified into 1, and that is power generation. Unlike Jean, she doesn't have that natural extra power gain, and Psionic Bolt isn't really going to be consistently hitting hard enough to keep Cassandra well fed. This leaves her without access to a lot of her defensive tech, and often won't leave room for her to use her big spender, so her damage output is probably a bit below average for a 5-threat character. But that's okay because, like Strange, she isn't built to deal massive amounts of damage. More often than not, if you were spending power on one of her attacks, it's to reposition your opponent's characters, not the gross-sounding flesh manipulation. But that may change with several characters being released who are notably weak to physical attacks. As for affiliations, Nova is only in the Cabal at the moment, and it's probably her favorite place to be. Mind Possession getting to pay for itself is extremely nice, and can really just help her keep all that power rolling in. Outside of her home, I think the Web Warriors can offer up some nice consistency for her defenses, while she brings them even more displacement to the affiliation. Outside of that, probably keep her away from affiliations that require power being spent to do whatever they want to do, because she's going to have problem keeping up with that. And that is all I have for today. I want to say thank you to all the members of the Guild Hall who are supporting what I'm doing with the channel. Let me seriously take a second and say I'm so appreciative of all of this extra support and what it allows me to do here. If you guys are interested in supporting the channel yourselves, check out the links down in the description for the Guild's Patreon page and Tritex Games page, where you can use that discount code to let them know I sent you their way. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.